Welcome. My name is Roy Childs and I'm here to help you complete the 15FQ Plus, a personality questionnaire designed to summarise and describe your typical style. You may have been invited to complete it as part of a personal or team development programme or as part of a selection process. Either way, this video will explain what the questionnaire does and does not do, which helps then to establish the most appropriate mindset for answering the questions. There are 200 questions in this questionnaire. Now that sounds like a lot, but do be patient because this helps to make the results more reliable. Your answer will then be summarised as a profile. However, a common misconception is that there are good or bad profiles. This is not so. All profiles have potential strengths and weaknesses, so the profile summarises your general or typical style, but what makes people effective is how aware they are of this style, and critically, how they then manage and adapt to life's demands. This becomes evident when we look at the profiles of great leaders and realise just how different they can be. I emphasise this because some people try to answer in a way that they feel is more acceptable or appropriate, especially in a selection context. Now, the people who have been trained by us to use the 15FQ Plus appreciate that it cannot measure your competence, and nor can it show how well you manage or adapt to different circumstances. This means that your assessor will use the profile to question and probe for further evidence, and this will reveal how effective you are. In addition, they recognise how profiles should not be used to select clones, but rather to ensure diversity of style. Hence, my advice to you when completing 15FQ Plus is to answer honestly and thoughtfully. You will find it easier to convince an assessor of who you really are than of who you may pretend to be. And just remember that the 15FQ Plus focuses on how you think you do things, not how well you do them. But I also realise that completing the 15FQ Plus is not always easy. Should you think of yourself at home or at work or elsewhere? It may help if you think of life as a bit of a tug of war. On the one side you have your inner nature, and on the other side is the situation or the environment. And the result, represented here in between, is what you do, your behaviour. This is the role that you choose or need to play. But 15FQ Plus is designed to focus on the inner you, your personality, not your role. The inner you is the person that would emerge if the environment, both past and present, did not make counter demands on you. This sometimes means separating what you do from who you are. And to help you then to complete the 15FQ Plus, I'd like to introduce you to the 4 selves model. This image represents your outer self, the person you show or project to the outer world, but inside there is always a more private part. And imagine that the head of the mafia walks in. What would you do? Or perhaps a different personality walks in. Or perhaps this little girl bursts in. Each one of these is likely to elicit a different response. This is what I call the contextual self. This recognises that you are adaptable, that you may play several roles, and that there can be many contextual selves. But I said earlier that the 15FQ Plus is asking you to describe the inner you, the person behind the roles. Do you think that Sean Connery or Daniel Craig really believed they were James Bond? I doubt it. And the same goes for each one of us. Behind every role we play, there is always a sense of who I really am. And I call this the identity self, and this is what we're seeking to describe with the questionnaire. But a further complication is how our inner identity can become entangled with another part of ourselves, which I call the ideal self. No matter how comfortable we are, everybody has a little voice inside which says, but I wish I were a little more X or Y or less X or Y. Few people quite live up to that ideal image. So you need to try to separate your honest sense of who you are inside from the person you would like to be. And this is not always straightforward, which is why I suggest giving yourself time for reflection rather than just giving the first answer that comes to you. So those are 3 selves. But why do I call it the 4 selves model? This is because the process of self-awareness is never finished. We all have hidden depths. At any age, we could still surprise ourselves. Imagine yourself suddenly being in a war zone or a refugee camp. Do you know how you would react? What new things you might discover about your resilience, your bravery? I call this the undiscovered self, and by completing the 15FQ+, you have an opportunity to explore and describe who you think you are at this point in your self-awareness journey. So your administrator, assessor or coach will have explained why you've been asked to complete the 15FQ+ and how you will receive the feedback. There may be a report or a one-to-one session or interview. Whichever it is, I hope this video has explained more about how to approach completing the questionnaire, and whether this is in selection or development, it can help you to describe and explore who you think you are, and hopefully you will find the results interesting. Thank you for listening.